Hey Gemini, this one's for you. This is Tarot Lumination with your general report for November 2017. And that's you, Gemini. So welcome to Tarot Lumination. Thanks for picking this channel. We'll do the best we can for you guys. Watch for your sun, moon, and rising. Squish it together, reinterpret, tell your own story to yourself. We'll help with what we can from here. Tarot Lumination is not a fortune teller. You know that already. So what's the drill? Also, no reversals, and no jumpers, no flyers. We're shuffling live so that you're a witness. Then we're going to cut and then do your spread. We're going to jump right in. It's heart journey spread that I like to call it. And coming from the core heart center as opposed to like more of an intellectual approach to things. So, or a technical approach to the reading. All right, so, oh, by the way, Gemini, if you're interested, if you want to enter the raffle for the Tarot Lumination Silk Scarf, there's a little button up here, like a round button. You click that, and you can enter the raffle, okay? All right, let's go for it. Cards are already shuffled. Thank you. Here we go. Okay. We're going to make the best of this, all right, Gemini? Here's you at the very core heart of self, okay? Not your thoughts, not your ideas, not your experiences or activities or anything. It's just the pulsing heart energy that might not even have a language for you at this moment, but it's there. It's the core of you. This is your legacy energy, baggage, heritage, past life energy, the last few weeks, whatever it is that's bringing in with you. This is the ever-present now, which is how things always are anyway. So this would be very symbolic of you and your energy moving through what we call November. All right, and then as you move through, you're always in a place where, kind of like it or not, we have to make decisions. Sometimes we decide not to decide, but in general, we're constantly having to make decisions. So how do we do that most effectively so that it works out the best for you? What is the most loving way to make your decisions so that it works? What is most loving for you, which is ultimately what's best for everyone else. Now, if you go along with things like the laws of attraction, laws of karma, the basic laws of the universe that are irrefutable, then this card would feel like kind of perfectly natural to you. It's normally to be expected. And, but if you feel like life is out there and it happens and then you have to respond, then that would feel more like fated energy. This energy here is the energy of understanding that your decisions have consequences as you move through your journey. So this would be like anticipatory energy of like, well, what if I make a bad decision, or what if I make a good decision? And this is more like the outcomes, or let's say the momentum of the journey. So can you see the heart here? I'm trying to describe it in the way that you can see a heart, and you're living through all of this, and that would be you at the very core, okay? Your pulsing being at the core. And here at the bottom is the circumstantial energy around you for this period, kind of like the weather. So here we go. You have the Empress. So things are ripe for you right now, Gemini, in such a way that the indication is it's a chance to really, let's say, tap into your abilities to really make things happen in a way that's like with the Empress. It's very beautiful, tangible, solid energy, like very, very earthy energy of abundance, creativity, manifestation. And it could feel for you like with this period, like there's a chance for you, Gemini, to tap into that, tune into that, ways you might not have done before, but it's there for you. You might have just literally felt like you landed in a very fertile garden, a very fertile environment where like everything is there for your picking, where you are very in tune with your environment, where it's very important that you stay very grounded and in tune with your environment so that you become one with your environment. It's very much a symbiotic energy where you merge the whole of yourself into your environment because it's luscious and it's all there for you. And then you allow that energy to merge into you to become one thing. So what's here at the core? Okay, with the tower here, you could say cataclysmic changes, or you could say like a series of multiple tiny cataclysmic changes that add up to a significant change, where uh, the beauty of this situation here is that like a whole new world unfolding where seeds that have been planted long ago are starting to come into fruit. And everything that is now, let's say, redundant and obsolete and no longer viable literally wilts and crashes and falls apart and dies away so that the new growth, the new fertility can come into being. So it's the good and the bad all at the same time. It's very beautiful. Also, you probably know that Terra Lumination, we see this as a very powerful healing card because um, it's not it's this is kind of irreversible. The only way out is through. So it's a question of just accepting that things are the way they are. There are things in this world and this life around us that are bigger than ourselves, bigger than our individuality. You know, the things like the earthquakes, the tornadoes, the hurricanes, the tsunamis, the huge fires, the lightning, the raw nature just being what it is and doing what it does. We have no say in any of that. So the best we can do is make the best of it and go with the flow of it. So when it's flowing very, very well, and it's like ripping up everything around you that needs to be ripped up, but it's also at the same time exposing fertile new ground. Sometimes in the old days, or maybe they still do it, some ways of farming, they harvest a crop and then they leave the stubble there, but they burn it and they trash it and burn it, and it looks very destructive. But that burning turns the leftovers into very fertile nutrients for the next crop, like the nitrates and things. So if you want to look at it that way, even though it could be really scary, but it's actually very nutritious, a nutritious experience. As one thing fades away, a new thing is born, the cycle repeats. But you can't have one without the other. Okay, what are you bringing in with you? So luckily, it looks like you're seeing this as divine opportunity. You've already got this. You're already kind of in the flow. It feels to me like you get this already. You've kind of got an inkling that this is already happening around you, and it's about time, and there's no way of avoiding it. So just let's get used to it. Let's get on with it. And then luckily, with, let's just say, a lot of really good old-fashioned common sense, you translate all this into a way that it works for you. So even though things might be feeling very turbulent to the point of, you know, complete upheaval, whether it's one little tiny rumble of an earthquake at a time in your life, remember this is not a relationships reading, it's just like broad energy. So if your life is like inching along day by day, there's one thing that kind of goes boom, and it just falls apart. And then the next day, something similar. Then the next day, then the next day. So it's cumulative. So this might not be one massive event. It might be a sequence of little events that add up to the point where you can actually see this happening, where you can see the old growth falling away, having been harvested, made the best of it, and the chance for new growth happening right underneath your feet at the same time in the same environment. So that's good. I'm glad you can see it that way. I'm glad you brought that in with you. So this is really, really optimistic, good way to come into November and keep it that way going forward. So in the ever-present now, how are you conducting yourself? Okay, with majesty for sure, with sovereignty of self, with dignity, with a lot of self-respect. No matter how turbulent things might be at your very core heart center, you somehow or other, you are figuring out a way to maintain your dignity and see the beauty in all of this in such a way that you get it. You understand that nature can be very, very turbulent, very, let's say, disruptive, but you can't blame it or stop it or fault it. It's just nature being what it is, what it does. And So with this like magnanimous, generous understanding, it allows you to live through this with grace and, let's say, um, great dignity, to the point where people figuring out around you, like, how do you do that, Gemini? How do you get through these very challenging circumstances, events, situations, people, surroundings, and you come out like this? How do you conduct yourself in that environment? You might be under a lot of pressure to do that, okay? But somehow or other, Gemini, you're digging deep within and understanding that as the old dies away, the new one comes up, and this is good for you. So you're accepting it. You're saying, well, you know what? Let's just turn it into opportunity. Why not? We've got no choice anyway. It's a business decision. So that's very noble of you. That's very inspiring, because, not everybody can do that. It's really, really sometimes very hard to see, really irreversible uh, big changes that could be cataclysmic, and somehow see the light and see the opportunity in that. But you're doing it, you're figuring it out, you're making it your business, you're making it your mission to figure it out and deal with it. So that's very courageous, Gemini. I'm really kind of envious of you here right now. So of course, that can also inspire others to be that way too. Like, oh, if Gemini can do it, then maybe I can do it too. Wow. So it still doesn't, absolve you from having to make important decisions. You still have to deal with all of this, the opportunity, the potential fertility, the abundance, the ability to have a luscious new way of being, despite everything seemingly falling apart around you, even if it might, shake you to the core. So you have to make decisions moving forward. So it's important to realize that making decisions have to be done in such a way that it's not always about being right. It's more about being happy, because there's a potential lot of joy here, and abundance, and wealth, and fertility, and opportunity for really amazing new beginnings, not just in your imaginings or your hope or aspirations or goals, but actually in real life. So in order to make health, so with this Five of Swords here, the decision making process is all about doing it in such a way that it's not totally self-serving just so that it works for you. It's very important to realize that your decisions will have an impact on others. And so it's important to, let's say, make decisions in the loving way, so that even if you might think you're right about something, you don't feel compelled to prove it just to prove a point, and in the process you leave everyone else alienated. Because what's the point? In other words, ha 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 ha, I'm right, I told you, I told you, I told you. And then everyone else sort of says, well, who cares? So what? What are you trying to prove? We don't even care. Because you being right might just be self-righteous. And that's smugness, and that's useless to anybody and everybody. So it's important to understand that, with great power, great sovereignty of self, dignity, and opportunity, and the understanding of what we've been talking about, comes great responsibility. So you can't abuse that power and, just, you know, like try to find ways just to make it work for you, because that would in theory be the most loving thing to do. But that's more self-serving, as opposed to loving oneself, loving others in a way so that it all comes down to happiness. In other words, what actually works so that the loving pulsing energy of life gets to flow, as opposed to the intellectual processes of what you think should be life, are forced into being by decisions that are actually, you know, maybe not that good for everybody else. So that puts you in a very precarious position here. So let's see, how do you move forward and make decisions that are not so potentially disruptive for others, okay, which would end up being disruptive for you? This is the energy of futility. So if you insist on being right just to be right, and you're thinking you can prove it, but in fact it doesn't really matter as far as the happiness of your world and your loved ones and your family around you, is impacted, then it is futile. What's the point? So how do you conduct yourself generously? So think of others. It's really, really important to factor others into your decisions. Factor others in such a way that, well, before you make a big decision, Gemini, moving forward with this energy of transforming yourself and allowing these new energies of transformational healing to move into your life and start a new life, new fertility, new ways of being that are more luscious and more abundant than before. The way to do it is every time you make a decision to exercise your sovereignty of self moving forward in your full dignity and mastery, which is all very wonderful, please remember to take your others and your loved ones into account, because your decisions will have impact on them. And it's important to do it such a way that like they really appreciate you. You're not pandering to them. In other words, you're just not, let's say, making decisions just to please people. You're not being a people pleaser here. This is the energy of someone who's making really, really important decisions where it's very, very tempting to act in your own self-interest for own personal gain at other people's expense. And the contrast, the loving approach would be make decisions that are mutually rewarding for everybody, where you get to benefit at the same time. And so you're actually sowing seeds of love. You're planting seeds of love in such a way that it actually works for you, and you're planting new crops that will grow and blossom and can be harvested, and then those can be the stubble can be burnt down to act for fertilizer the next time around. And that would be the happy, smart, loving way to do that, so that it works for others, so everyone else can share your abundance and good fortune and sovereignty and with you, so that you're not isolated and on your own. So it's really, really important. The loving way to make your decisions is think of others first. Put yourself in their shoes, and then look back at yourself and think, well, what would be the good thing for Gemini to do moving forward with all this amazing opportunity and ambition in such a way that works for everybody? Love is as love does. So let's have a look what works for everybody. Let's have a look. So where would that take us? All right, Gemini. Let's say you understand what we're talking about here, and we understand the laws of attraction. Be loving, be loved. Sowing seeds of love means you can reap a harvest of love. Okay, that's kind of what's going on here, from the heart outwards, and it could be a big change for you, to function this way and start to live this way from here onwards. But you can also see the opportunity here because you've already noticed the opportunity coming in, seeing this as your time and your moment. So that's good news. However, it might be contradictory to your normal way of making decisions. So what would that bring to you so that you understand, like, laws of attraction, how you are creating your world? Okay, good. This is very healing. This is very, very healing for you, Gemini, which is good for others too. Because what can happen is that we can have a big rebalancing of how you, let's say, I want to get this right. I want to get this right, Gemini, because I just have a really, really good feeling about this. Gemini, I want to just check something. Please give me a moment, Gemini. This is very unusual for me right now to do this, but I want to just check something on a chart. Give me just a second here. I'll be right back. You'll see what I'm talking about in a moment. Okay, so for you, Gemini, this could be very healing because we've got the Jupiter and Scorpio thing happening right now for the next year or so, which is going to change everything for everybody. It's going to upend everybody at some point. And for you, Gemini, it happens over here in your 6th house. Okay, so you've got this big transit going on for a year here in your 6th house, which is very, very much to do with the practical applications of healing, self-healing, healing oneself, and doing that on a daily basis so that you improve, 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 improve. So that's why I wanted to mention this. That's why the Temperance card is so important here, so that you see and understand that this new chapter in your life that's unfolding for the next year or so is a really good opportunity for like radical changes in healing, especially self-healing. Because if we look at the Tower card again, as a card of radical openings into healing by revealing everything that needs to be healed, including perhaps attitudes or ways you've already conducted your life. It brings you into alignment with what's supposed to be happening anyway for you, Gemini, which is all about, let's say, I mean, with the Temperance card, it is bringing things into harmony, bringing things into balance, knowing that you are like divinely supported from above, and that the energy of heaven, the healing power of love, can now have a chance to move into your life in ways you might not understand it or be able to put it in words, but your heart knows, okay? Your heart knows, and it's going to happen. So by the end of this transit for a year, you're really going to know it and feel it, how, like, how your decision-making processes might have been, let's say, in need of improvement, but you're seeing how when you, let's say, look at the bigger picture outside of you and take account of everyone and everything outside of you, that can be very, very healing, because you can start to feel how wonderful it is to be loved by others when you deliberately make decisions and choices that nourish and foster spiritual love and healing and advancement in others. It's incredibly satisfying, to the point where it starts to bring you closer and closer into a balance with your true self that you might not even really know before, because you might have already been convinced that you're pretty awesome already, but discovering that there's a whole new level to which you can rise, and you can learn this in the context of self-healing. So now in the self-healing process, it looks very beautiful, serene, and sublime here, but it actually can be quite turbulent. So as you go through this year, this is not a year-long projection reading, and this is not a Jupiter and Scorpio reading. It's just for November. But in November, you might be really like sparked to realize, because it's getting really lit up right now, right here. It's lit up right now, but the energy is gonna trail on for a year or so, where the theme of this reading might resonate for, many months to come, where each time you reach that threshold of having to make more decisions, you are realizing, wow, hold on, stop, listen, take account of my others, my loved ones, my dear ones, and then make my decision. So that can pull these disparate parts of yourself together in the middle in ways that might feel uncomfortable as you start to heal yourself. But once you start to feel it, the more you heal, the better you heal. And it starts to compound yourself. So the healing process becomes very fertile in itself. So, but so long as you continue to plant the seeds and nurture the seeds and understand that let's just compress this into deep, rich love energy, fertility that can be translated and exploited and turned into the healing power of love. That's what can happen here. It's out there, it's for you, it's the opportunity is there. So what would you be scared of if it didn't work? Okay, just going back to the same old bunch of nightmares and pain and grief and anxiety that you might have had to endure for a long time that you really don't have to deal with anymore, so long as you're willing to adopt a new perspective on how you relate to others, how you communicate with others, how your decisions impact others, okay? So this could be eliminated if you mess up on your decisions, and if you insist on always being like right because you're so smart. Well, that's great, but it might not be that way for everybody. What's right for you might not be right for everybody else. So please look at this as a gift. With the Nine of Swords here, it could be an understanding that by taking this new, more loving approach to decisions, you get to pretty much eliminate this, or at least remove these anxieties one by one by one, let's say month by month by month over the next year, to the point where this doesn't even exist anymore. Poof, gone. So where does that take us? What sort of momentum does that lead? Okay, wow. So it's almost like once you understand what we're talking about here and you start to live it out, it can become, you can actually become almost like passionately hooked into this, where you think, wow, this is so cool. I never knew life worked this way before. I have to tell everybody. Wow. And then other people start to dig you and they think, wow, Gemini, that's really cool. What on earth happened to you? You've gone through some huge changes and you're not the person we've known before. And you kind of say, well, ha ha ha, actually, this is how I was all the time. I was just growing into it. So it would like the process of learning this and doing this and allowing things to unfold, allowing whatever has to fall away, and whatever has to be healed, allow it to heal, so that you understand how the healing process is actually very delicious, and it fosters more healing in yourself and others. It's almost something like, I need to tell people about this. This is important. This is a big deal, and I'm all lit up. I'm inspired about it. So that's kind of exciting. So it can actually inspire you to want to keep repeating the process, because the more you do it and the better you get at it, the better it works for you, the better it works for others. The more you sow seeds of love through your decisions, the more the love comes back to you. Be loving, be loved. Be loving, be loved. Love is as love does. So make loving decisions that are all, not just all about you, which I would normally say is like, make the decision that's most loving for you. But in your situation, the most loving decisions that you can make are decisions that include a deep awareness about how your decisions impact others. Okay? So this is really kind of beautiful for you, Gemini, in a very like convoluted kind of way. I'm really happy for you. So let's make the best of it, Gemini. Let's leave it at that. I don't want to spoil the reading by saying anything more. Watch your sun, moon, and rising. If you want to do the raffle, click the little ticket up there, the button thing, and go for it, okay? Thanks so much for picking Tarot Illumination. Bye-bye. Make the best of November. I'm sure you get it. I'm sure you understand what we're talking about here. Love is as love does, okay? Allow for the healing power of love. You're already making it happen. So you can heal all this, and then you can celebrate and express to others how awesome it is to be this new you, all right? Bye-bye, Gemini.